Get ready for truth and common sense. Join the Framers View on Rumble.com to be part of the chat. Be sure to click join and follow to help keep the Framer on the air. Watch the replay on theframersview.com or Rumble.com.
Yes, and welcome to the Tuesday version of Framers View. Thank you for being here. Thank you for taking the time, actually, to watch this show. I know there's no other choices, and that's why you're watching it. Oh, wait a minute. There are so many choices, it's unbelievable. You know, we're blessed. I have to tell, I always tell stories, and you know that. But I got a story I'll share with you. I think I've shared it before, but I'm going to share it again because I've got new viewers. So, welcome to the show. Hey, please do me a favor. Click on follow, whether you're watching it live or whether you're watching it afterwards, as a recording. Click follow. That helps me, as our good president would say, hugely. So please do that for me. I'd appreciate it. So, Pride, Fright, and Uptight. Man, I don't think there's ever been a time that's more accurate with those statements than we have right now. Because what do we have? Well, let's see. We've got a situation where the Democrats are losing their minds. There's lawsuits at every liberal judge's desk you can think of, because of course that's the only ones that would stop these things that are being done. And while all of that's happening, Trump just keeps tromping on. He just goes, yeah, well, whatever, let him do that, but we're going to get our job done. I mean, that's kind of, I think if we could be, a fly on the wall in the White House, that's probably what we would hear. I really don't care what these guys are doing or what they're saying or anything like that. We're going to just get the job done. That's the way it's going to be. So anyway, we'll see what happens. So we've got American Pride. We've got Jim Jordan talking about the expenses and everything is going on with that. We'll talk about how some of those expenses are going, the panic that's going on with the Democrats and Musk. It's amazing. We'll talk about it, but how Musk has become just like Trump in that he was the hero of Democrats until they showed their beliefs. And now they're the enemy. It's just cut them off. That's it. You're done. AGs that are going crazy, organizations that are being shut down or threatening to shut down. Look at tariffs. That's something I think we're really wanting to get our arms wrapped around. What's happening with these Israelis and their hostage release? It's kind of scary, and what's happening. Birthright citizenship, doing a little study on that, and it's not just exactly what you think it is. And finally, even the highway gets in on some of the things in politics. We'll talk about that. I got to say this and tell this story because I'm just a kid from Fort Wayne, Indiana. That's where I grew up. And, the true Midwest meat and potatoes, just short of being hillbilly in Fort Wayne. The further south you go, certainly south of Indianapolis, we're talking a little bit different than most of the other people do. And that's just what Indiana is. But it's just a plain, I lovingly say hillbilly state. And, everybody thinks, oh, that's Alabama, that's West Virginia. No, not just that. But there's some smart people there. And some of the biggest insurance industry is the biggest insurance industry probably in the United States. A massive amount of insurance business in the state of Indiana. But when I was a kid, there was a radio station called WOWO. And this radio station was a 50,000 watt clear channel AM radio station because we didn't have, well, I think we had FM, but nobody listened to it. and because it was just nonsense stuff that nobody would pay attention to. And they didn't really have the signal and all those kind of things, the strength. But I wanted to be in radio. I wanted to be a disc jockey. And this is when I was, just a little kid, which now I'm this big. And so, I wanted to be able to do that, and it was important for me to be able to succeed in radio. And, I didn't know what my future was going to be because I was like, 6, 5. But my dad was an engineer, a brilliant guy, rocket scientist, literally. And he got me an erector set. And an erector set, if you Google it, I've never even tried that, but if you Google erector set 1950s, you'll probably see this little board where you could plug in little jump wires from one spot to another and make things happen with it, make a light come on, make this, make that, and it ran off a little battery. Well, one of the things you could do was make a radio station out of it. And, you had to plug in these, and they had a little instruction book on how to do it. I wish I'd have kept that. And you could put all those little things together and make your radio station, and it would go out to, I think it was 88.9 or 88.7 AM, and you could broadcast on a radio. Now, that could only happen in the house, but I had this little itty bitty microphone, and I got it to work, and it was like I was in radio heaven. And, my mom and dad just were stunned that I even got it to work, but then they were worried I would never stop. I ended up, going to school, ended up, doing radio part-time, started to, move into the full-time thing while I was in school. And the fact was there wasn't any money in it. So that's when I moved on and after I got through school, and I got out into the world of the automotive business. And here I am. And I'm so grateful that I did both of those things, because the radio world got me where I am and what I'm doing and understanding how to do it. I did a little bit of TV, very little, because I have a face for radio. But I did a couple of guest shots on the local TV station doing the weather, which was a hoot, I will admit. But by the way, when I was doing that, it was basically a whiteboard that we drew on. We didn't have the green screens and all the stuff that we have now. Anyway, that's what I did. And here we are doing this show on Rumble, who is willing, able, capable, however you want to look at it, to actually allow people to say what they think and not throttle you. I've never received a note saying, hey, you can't say that. I've never put anything up there that they said you can't do. I've watched other shows where they're using language I will not use, but they allow that. It's a free country. You have free speech. I hope, my whole vision is that, when I was in radio, I was doing rock and roll radio with kids. That's what all rock and roll radio was. We had the call-in line, request line.
Will you play Seasons in the Sun for the 47,000th time?
But that's what we did. And, we didn't have foul language because you couldn't. The FCC wouldn't allow it. But even if they would, I'd be like, no, you don't do that around kids. And I'd like to think parents would say, hey, watch Framer's View, because you're going to learn some stuff from that. That's my whole goal. So anyway, that's what it is. That's how it is. And that's about all I'll say about that. But thank you for being here. I appreciate it. A story before I get to the stories. And this came across too late for me to throw it in. But, all of these winning, right? All of the winning that's going on. And the winning has to do with Trump is powerful, and he uses the power of the United States, A, to make us successful, B, to make us safe, and C, to get people out of here that don't belong here, that are dangerous, which kind of ties to the safety factor. Not kind of, it does. So now, another country that said, no, we're not taking these guys back. No way, no how. Guess what? Venezuelan planes sent to U.S. for deportation flights returned to country with nearly 200 deportees. 2 planes of illegal immigrants left El Paso today, that was this morning, headed to Venezuela, paid for by the Venezuelans, according to Richard Grenell, who is a rock star in the entire Trump administration genre. And, he's kind of the in-the-dark guy. He moves around and does things, activities, events, whatever is going on, and he's the guy that's keeping track of it, making sure it happens. And he's been watching this, and he's been very involved with the border issue, and it's pretty amazing. So, I think we have to recognize that there's always going to be people, no matter what you say, there's always going to be people that hate Trump. And I've said it before, hate destroys. And the point is that the hate that we're talking about here is what destroys the country, but also destroys the whole belief system in America. For the people that only watch CNN, MSNBC, ABC, CBS, NBC. This is why we have to get out there and get people to find us, whether it be Fox, Newsmax, all of the other conservative views that are out there. I get a good friend that he says, so what would you call your show? Because he doesn't think that I'm necessarily balanced. And I said, I've got an opinion show. Okay, yeah, I agree with that. But he says, you're always talking positive about the Republicans, not the Democrats. He didn't say it quite that way, but that's what he was getting at. I would talk about a Democrat that did something positively. In fact, Fetterman's a good example. He has said, he's been very clear, hey, we can't keep doing this, guys. Democrats. We can't keep doing it this way and expect to ever get elected because we're out of bounds. There's boundaries. I used to be a big skier. I love to ski out of bounds, which you're not supposed to do, of course. But guess what? That's where the deep and steep is. That's where you go out there and just crank it. And then you climb out after you get to the bottom, unless there's a way to get back over across to a gondola. But going out of bounds for the Democrats is a little different because there are no gondolas for them to get back on if they don't change. They're at the bottom of the mountain. They're in the desert. They've been deserted by their own party. I'm not saying everybody, but they have to recognize that this is really happening. And it's happening in so many different ways. And Fetterman's an example of somebody that's saying, maybe we should back off. And there's others, the ones that are quiet. The ones that get on TV are the ones that are the whacked out nut jobs that are working with the liberal media. And they will keep doing what they're saying. And you can say, well, that's what the Republicans do with the people from on Fox and Newsmax and other podcasts. Well, yeah, they do. But when you listen to it, it's common sense. And I don't know how to explain common sense anything better than something that you could say, I could take this home and explain it to somebody, and it would say, oh, yeah, that makes sense. Everything they're doing, you can't sell this story. So anyway, I want to show something today that may have been seen by those of you who are watching this show, that was on the Super Bowl. And the pride and the necessity and the willingness, I would say, are the 3 words. The pride is America. The necessity is things that we have to get done. And this commercial that ran on the United States Secret Service is an example. I don't remember ever seeing a Secret Service recruiting video. Watch this. If you haven't seen it, you need to see it. If you have, it's worthy of seeing once again. So watch this.
America was founded on an idea of freedom. America's always stepped forward in time of need throughout our short but powerful history.
Ask not what your country can do for you. Ask what you can do for your country.
Tear down this wall.
We've been there for all of it.
150.
The second plane hit the tower.
Our heroes are humble. They have an inner pride to keep this idea alive. Protectors are born, they're not made. America's Secret Service protecting this Super Bowl is asking a few more.
That is powerful, to say the least. It's powerful, but it kind of supports something that I said, I don't even remember what date it was, that Trump announced that he was going to bring Pete Hegseth to the Department of Defense. And I said, you know, first of all, I wasn't in favor of him necessarily because he's a TV guy. And I knew he was in the military and he believes in America, but I didn't really know for sure. And then we had the instance where all the crap came down on him. All of it turned out to be just more of the garbage that goes on all the time. And then I watched him in interviews. I watched him when he was speaking at the hearings, and I went, you know, this guy's good. But the thing that I said the day that Trump announced he was going to come in, I said, if he comes in, he will make an enormous difference in the recruiting of the military services. Army, Navy, Marines, Air Force, Coast Guard, whoever, Secret Service. He will create a need and want solution. We need more recruits. And there's a lot of people out there, you know, look at what it costs to go to college today. You go and serve, and when you come back, you've got a Bill of Rights for education. There's a lot of people that couldn't go to school, whether it be college, whether it be a trade school, which I think trade school is probably the most logical thing for 99% of the people. You know, you don't need a I don't know, botany degree unless you want to be in botany. And then you should go to college. But most people are going to work for a living using their hands, being in an office, operating in situations where they can learn things in a trade school. But the military is their avenue for many people, especially the poor. And I'm talking about the poor, I don't care about color. There's poor in all colors. And they could have an opportunity, male or female, because there are only two generations, just so you know. There's only two genders, and those genders are male and female. But they can both join, and they can serve. And they have a purpose, they have a right. And I think we have to recognize that recruiting that's going to be going on because of Pete Hegseth is going to make an enormous difference. We've already seen it, and it will continue. We have 4 years ahead of us where we can make an enormous difference. And if we do it right, if the Republicans just keep from sticking their head up their butts, we will be able to have 12 years of success. 4 years with Trump, and hopefully 8 years of J.D. Vance or whoever it turns out to be, which was an interesting statement by Trump. But I think he is smarter than all the rest of us. When Brett Baer asked him about, are you going to, with J.D. Vance following you? And he said, no. We're 3 weeks in. We haven't done anything yet. We're not going to talk about who's going to replace me at the end of 4 years. Good for him. He doesn't know how J.D. Vance is going to support him, work for America, do what he's supposed to do in the first 2 years. And at the end of those 2 years, there'll be more of a solid situation there. But that would mean J.D. did a hell of a job, and people like Glenn Youngkin and not Rubio, but governor of Florida, may not even run because JD's done a good job. That's what could happen. We'll see. But this is an amazing, exciting, opportune time. Speaking of opportune, let's get to the real stuff. Jim Jordan, he's a guy that, his world, his operation, the way he does things, is in your face. And he's strong, and he doesn't let you get away with stuff. And when he's interviewing somebody that's on his side, he does some interesting things in the way that he brings up these stories. Watch this video. We'll talk about this on the other side.
$7 trillion in annual spending, 400 agencies and sub-agencies, 1,000 boards and commissions. I think anyone, maybe even the people on the other side of the aisle, I think anyone would say, almost everyone would say, that's too big. And when you have big government, does big government have a tendency to spend taxpayer money on stupid things?
That's part of the reason that we're here, and it's one of the things that Citizens Against Government Waste has been documenting for many, many years.
You've been highlighting this for like 100 years. I mean, I've known you for a long time.
Organization,
God bless you for persisting.
Organization, 41 years. I've been there 39.
And when you spend money, when you're the person spending money on something stupid, you just assume, you would just kind of hope that people don't really notice that, right? If you're in the government, and you're spending, what did Miss Boebert just say, $32,000 for a transgender comic in Peru, $16 million in gender development offices. You're spending money on stuff like that. You just kind of hope that people probably don't notice that. Is that probably fair to say? That's kind of human nature, I would think.
Well, that's part of the problem, is that the taxpayers don't know exactly how the money is being spent because there is not the transparency that, for example, Iowa, Ohio, Arizona, and other states have. And you should be able to push a button and find out how your tax dollars are being.
And so it's understandable why everyone on the left, all the proponents of big government, all the supporters of big government, all the people getting the taxpayer money from big government, it's understandable why they are attacking Elon Musk, because he's pointing out the stupid things that government spends money on.
As I said, he's very clear about what he believes, what he says, and how he says it. It really, this whole spending thing is stunning, but also frightening. First of all, the fact that we finally have somebody that's doing what Barack Obama said years ago. Oh, we're going to go line by line through the budget and cut the wasteful spending. No, he didn't do it. There was nothing done. What he did do, and they kept quiet, was he got rid of a lot of illegals that came across the border. Most people didn't even know that because that wasn't good. But he knew common sense. We can't have this continue. He said that before he became president, multiple times. So here we are. We're standing literally on this ridge on a cliff where we can make a difference or not. We can change things permanently by making good bills, good laws, creating a wall against stupidity, so that no matter what maybe we're going to have to do amendments to do some of these things. It's happened before, but the only way that can happen is the next election in 28, 27 for the election. We have to get a supermajority in the Senate and the House. big time. Because to do an amendment, you have to have 3/4 of the House and the Senate to do an amendment and pass it. And I think it's the same thing with all the states for an amendment. And it ain't easy. But there may be some things we have to do. So spending. He talks about spending. He talks about, the fact that people are spending money, nobody's paying attention, and they just keep doing it and they stay really quiet. It's kind of like a mountain lion. They're not walking down the street looking for something to eat. They're parking themselves and they're waiting. And then they're going to come up behind you and get you. But they're going to stay quiet. And that's what these people that are knowingly spending money that they shouldn't be spending, that's what they do. So something came up that really is stunning to me. Again, something we didn't know that's now coming out because of Elon Musk and the committee of Doge. This is what came out. This was on Twitter. This is amazing. Pakistan received $100 million in FEMA funds. Just last week, career civil servants from FEMA illegally diverted $59 million from disaster relief to house illegal aliens in New York City. The city leases the Roosevelt Hotel from the Pakistani government, and thanks to a deal brokered by, gee, what a surprise, Chucky Schumer, FEMA is footing the bill. Pakistan has already received $100 million of a total of $220 million committed by the city. This is what's happening right now. These aren't made up stories. $100 million to Pakistan, and 59 of it going to a hotel. Now, do you want to understand why New York wants to be a sanctuary city and why New York has, in most cases, not pushed back on anything? Well, gee whiz. Do you think that 100% of the Roosevelt is full every day of every year without this? No hotel is full every day at 100%. It's kind of like rental cars. You don't always have all of your cars rented out. But in this case, with Roosevelt Hotel and other hotels in the city, you got people that are there that aren't paying for anything, that's maybe destroying the hotel, living in luxury, and are getting food vouchers and are getting, it's just insane. Now let's go one more step into this, and that is North Carolina. The people that are living in tents in very cold weather, not cold like here, let's see, right now it's 6 degrees, but not that cold, I hope. Why are we doing something for them? We're not. We need to. When this occurred, FEMA could have done something like this and come up with a way to house them. When we had the floods down in New Orleans, they put those trailers down there for people to live in. They're not even doing that. Now, Trump's trying to figure out something that he can do to make that happen. You can't transport everybody from North Carolina up to New York, and you got to get these illegals out of there. If Holman wants to really make a hell of a difference in New York, just go to the Roosevelt and just arrest everybody. They're all illegals. Why not? So keep in mind, when you think about what's happening in New York and what could be a real problem, is take a look at this picture I dragged off the net. This is a picture, $59 million yesterday spent by FEMA in New York City. This is, I don't know what street this is. I tried to figure out based on the buildings. I used to live in New York. I don't know if this is the Roosevelt or not. I'm guessing it is because I remember the awning that sticks out over the street there. But this is where people are sleeping and living, where it's not safe to walk. $59 million, like that's nothing. Well, it is. It is something. And it's really frightening. So I would suggest to you that we cannot continue to do this, and Trump is doing the best he can. But as long as the Dems are going to push back and push back and push back on this whole process of getting rid of the illegals, we've pretty well stopped the people that are coming across the border. It was less than 1,000 people across the whole border. I think it was 300 and some the other day, 2 days ago. I didn't see one for today. But we have to get those taken care of, and we have to take care of these poor people that literally are homeless, not because they're lazy, stupid, and incapable, because their houses went down the river, because they were blown over by water. We have to help them. That's my story, and I'm sticking with it. All right. There's a guy named Jerry Conley. He's a congressman, I think, from Connecticut. I may be wrong on that, but I believe it's Connecticut. And a few others that are talking about Musk. And Musk, he's so dangerous. And Musk is ruining the country. And Musk is taking over the administration. And he thinks he's President Musk. And his dirty hands. And watch this craziness, and you'll see what I mean. We'll talk about this.
Nobody elected Elon Musk to be president, but he has his grimy hands all over our administration.
Every day, Elon and his tech bros ride their skateboards over to a new agency and start crashing into their databases.
Calling for Elon Musk to be fired from his position as a special government employee. Now, this comes after Republicans quashed a move yesterday from the ranking Democrat on the House Oversight Committee to subpoena Elon Musk about Doge and his efforts to overhaul the federal government.
Given his prominence and his importance, I move that the committee subpoena Elon Musk to come before it.
What questions would you have for him?
I guess I'd start with, tell us all about the authority you claim to have to be rummaging around in federal agencies, rummaging around in private databases of American citizens, interrupting with payment schemes and terminating employees, transferring employees, shutting down operations. That is sweeping power no American has ever had, not even a president. So who are you and where do you get this authority? And prove it. I mean, show us. And what are the boundaries of accountability for you?
Well, first of all of that he just said is nonsense. Nonsense. And why do I say it's nonsense? For a simple reason. Musk can't make a payment, can't stop to pay a payment. He can't shut off an organization. He can't do any of that. He has no power. His job is, like I said yesterday, is to go and find out that this pencil and this pen, the pencil's worth $650 and the pen is $700 each. And he says, no, that's insane. We can send you down to Office Depot and we'll get them for you for $1. And he goes and he tells the committee, which part of those are Senate and Congress people, and those people will report back to the president, and the president will say, well, we got to stop that. It's the president, not Elon Musk. That ship has gone totally away. And they think that they can make people believe that. But it's just not true. So I have something I want you to see, because it's not just these congressmen and these senators that are losing their minds, Chuck E. Schumer and those. It's some of these state people that are an AG that I'm about to show you. And this guy tries to act like he's sincere. Well, they're breaking the law. But you can see the snarky look on this guy's face. You can see how he acts and what he says. And you can see the hate that's in him about Donald Trump, which is what all of this is about. And it just tells the story. But Watch this, and we'll talk about privacy on the end.
The premise of the lawsuit is that the law was broken, not just that we may have disagreed with this personally or from a policy standpoint, but that actual specific federal laws were broken. There are federal laws about how privacy is protected with this kind of data, and then there are laws about the process for changing these kinds of rules. We believe both of those sets of laws were broken.
And what are you most opposed to?
The fact that laws were broken. Our legal standing is that the information, the sensitive information of people in this state could have been exposed. There is potential harm to the state as a result of these laws that we believe were broken. If sensitive information is released to the public, that is injury in and of itself.
So that's the reason that Jackson is his name, that he is not on Fox News. Because, you know, get in front of Martha McCallum, get in front of I don't know, Hannity, whoever. And they're going to go, wait a minute, what are you talking about? And let's just be clear about this, because this is important to understand. And I've said it so many times, but I'm going to say it over and over and over again until I know that my viewers are telling people that are saying that Musk is doing this stuff and he's getting this private data. He has view-only rights in the software. He's not in the data. He didn't get a password to get into the data, to see all this stuff and to be able to scrape it off. He isn't doing that. I said it yesterday. If he wants that information, he'll pick up the phone and say, I want the names and addresses and phone numbers of every person in the United States. And I guarantee you by the end of the day, he'd have it. All 330 million. Let's say 300 million, because we got kids and people who wouldn't have information on. That's all it would take. The idea that he's looking at information, do you think he's taking that $650 pencil and he's writing down information on 300 million people while he's looking at that? Don't be stupid. I know you're not. But that's what I'm saying to these people that say that. Don't be stupid. And if you want to put that out there, this is the wrong time. You lost. And a lot of people voted for Trump that are still watching you people. And you look like a fool. A total, absolute, abject, fear-mongering fool. $650 pencil. Make a note. It's that simple. And I can't describe it any way better than that. It's just stupid. And people know it. Now, something I want to share with you that is near and dear to my heart. I used to be in the mortgage business. I had owned a mortgage company. And, you know, it's gone. It was destroyed. We weren't a huge company. We were doing good business, but nothing like the big boys, nothing like the big, huge brokers. You know, I was doing it to make some money, and the company went down. It was an LLC, crashed and burned. Part of the reason, and I've talked about this before, part of it is about regulation. And one of the organizations that Musk and Trump and other people are talking about is the CFPB, the Committee of Financial something Bureau. I never remember the name of it. But the CFPB is overbearing, over-controlling, and honestly, I would never go back into the business because it's almost impossible to do a mortgage for somebody and not break some rule, regulation, law in the process. It's become onerous. It's virtually impossible. The steps and procedures to get a loan through that's clean is so hard because of all the regulations, which are still silly. It's like these Dems that are talking about, you know, how the banks are not doing loans for black people. That's called redlining, and that doesn't happen. Now, that's a good part of the CFPB because they said, hey, if you're doing that and we have evidence of it, we're going to shut you down. We're going to audit you and we're going to shut you down. Now, what is redlining? Well, just saying, no, we're not going to do business with anybody in this area. Redlining meaning we take a red pin, one of the $700 ones, and we do a line around an area and we say we don't do any loans in there because it's all black people and poor people. That would be a violation of the red flag law. And that's wrong. Shouldn't happen. But we already had that before the CFPB. Now what they do is they say, well, you don't have enough black and poor people that are getting loans. Well, that flies against the obvious requirement of doing a loan, and that is the ability to pay the loan back. You buy a house, condo, townhome, and you have to pay it back. And if you can't, it goes through bankruptcy and you lose the home. Well, if you have to have more poor people that are buying homes and you have to soften the requirements to be able to qualify for those loans, then you have a problem. That's how we went from about 33% debt to income to 43%, and in some cases over 50% of your income against your debt. It's crazy. So that's why the CFPB has become so regulatory and so difficult. And the documents that they have are so hard to get people to understand when you review it with them, to understand what they're looking at. Most of them don't even look at it. Say, let's go over this. No, we'll look at it. And that's it. They just do the loan. So look at this article about the CFPB. Shortly after Russ' vote was confirmed by the OMB director, President Trump designated him as acting director of the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, CFPB. Vote then promptly notified the Fed that the CFPB's funding request for next quarter is zero. Zero. No more funding. Pursuant to Consumer Financial Protection Act, I have notified the Federal Reserve that CFPB will not be taking its next draw, you're going to appreciate this, of unappropriated funding because it is not reasonably necessary to carry out its duties. The Bureau's current balance of $711.6 million is in fact excessive in the current fiscal environment. This spigot, long contributing to CFPB's unaccountability, is now being turned off. $711 million sitting there. Now let me tell you why this is a big number and why they've got this money. This money is there because when the CFPB says, okay, big bank that does home mortgages, or big brokerage firm that does big mortgage, we're talking about the big guys. And they go through with, every tooth of a comb looking through things. And they find this and they find that and they find this, and they find them $200 million, $50 million, whatever the number is. Well, where do you think that money goes? That goes into the bucket for CFPB. Nobody else gets it. They just keep filling the coffers with $711 million sitting there. And then they use it, God knows what they use it for after that. That's what they use probably to pay for a lot of people to go into a big bank. I'm not saying they've gone through this, but let's say it's Wells Fargo, home loan organization. They're going to send 20, 30 people in there or more for months. The servicing organizations that do servicing on loans, they'll put dozens of people in there and drag it out for 6, 12 months. Audit, audit, audit. And then what do? That's why we're in the trouble we're in, because there's no stopping this. None at all. So let's talk about some good news for once. It's important we do that. Ron Johnson talks about Rubio, Musk, Trump winning and the genius of Musk. Some of you may disagree with the genius, but you don't become the richest man in the world accidentally. Doesn't happen.
Democrats are sore losers. They are the party of big government. They recognize Elon Musk is a genius. Organizationally, he knows how to dramatically reduce the cost of, for example, shooting a rocket into space. They realize exactly what he can do when he starts examining government and uncovering all the waste, all the fraud, all the abuse. That's going to allow us to trim down the size of government, reduce its cost and its influence over our lives. Democrats don't want that. They want government because it gives them power, power to control our lives. That's what they're squealing about right now is right. They can't stand this. This is just unacceptable to them to a degree that's beyond belief, really. This is why we are in the spot we're in, that the Democrats are so against controlling spending because of all their little pets out there that are getting money, which is how they get reelected. And every senator and every congressperson, their job is to go out into the public and find out what the needs are and take care of them. But when somebody says, hey, we need $20 million and we'll put $2 million of that into a PAC to support your campaign. That's not the way it's supposed to work. Not supposed to work that way. That's just illegal. But it happens all the time. And Blagojevich went to prison for just saying, hey, we don't want to have this candidate in office, and they put him in jail, in prison. Trump just released him. So, we talk about cutting money. How do we get money? And this tariff thing is just fascinating to me because, I've been a person that's been, I'm going to call it on and off with the idea of tariffs. I've done international business and paid tariffs. We'll talk about this in a minute. But there's good and bad with tariffs, but the way Trump's doing it looks like it really works. Take a look at these numbers. I've got 2 slides for you. This is the average tariff rates of U.S. and its top 15 trading partners. So the reason I put this up here is very simple. Because we want to see what those rates are first. And the second part of that is, other than it, what they are, is understanding what the trade weighted average is. Meaning, when we have a tariff with them and they have a tariff with us, how does that work and what's a percentage? Well, here's a good example. U.S. is 3.3 as a simple average, 2.2 is what we charge. Mexico charges 6.8, but because we do trade business with them, it's 3.9%. We'd like to see it balance out. Canada, China, here's the one that's important. China, 77.5%. Now, I said to you that I did business, international business. Our products that we had parts and we had assembled units. The parts, most of them, were 7.5%. But the unit put together was 25%. No, excuse me, I think it was 15%. It's a big difference, especially on assembled units. So guess what happened? Everything comes into the U.S., and then it's assembled in the U.S. with the parts. And that makes it a 7.5% tariff. But everybody wins. And these figures and these opportunities that Trump's doing, and all of these, all the way down through this line, all of these people and all of these experiences are a big deal. India, look at India. This is a great example. They're the highest of the whole bunch. We need to do something to fix that. The weighted average is 12%. The weighted average of China is 7.5. It's not even 7.5, it's 3 something. We have to do something with India because we're doing more business with them. I wanted to share that with you for you to understand where we are and what we're doing today that's making a difference. And Trump is really looking at tariffs
as an opportunity to be able to generate income, and at the same time, along with generating income, to create a more balanced economy. That's what we need, and we can get that accomplished. So, enough with tariffs, enough with all of that stuff. There's these people over in the Middle East that have really been abused. You might have heard of them. They're called the Israelis. If you study the Bible, you study history, you know that Israelis have spent hundreds of years, thousands of years, walking across the planet trying to find a place to live, and they were always pushed out, which is interesting. And here they are, they've got this little piece called Israel. And it's not that big. And then you've got this little itty-bitty little strip called Gaza. And Gaza has Hamas and Houthis and, of course, Iran working for them. And when these prisoners are released, it's scary. Some of them, the first ones came out, and they looked pretty good. And then the ones that came in literally look like Holocaust victims that were brought out after the war and rescued. Skin to the bones. Scary stuff. Nearly dead. Watch this story. This is about what Hamas is doing when they're releasing prisoners. Watch this.
For Hamas, every hostage release is a psychological warfare project. Every week, the released hostages are forced into an elaborate media stunt of terrorist propaganda as their release out of captivity becomes into an orchestrated parade and performance set up by Hamas and the Islamic Jihad for the world to see. From putting them on stage where they are forced to smile and wave at crowds of their terrorist tormentors, surrounded by flags and posters, some with slogans such as Nazi Zionism will not win, to the personalized goodie bags that contain certificates and photos humiliating the hostages. All of this is filmed and shared by Al Jazeera journalists working in collaboration with Hamas. They are given exclusive access to the released hostages, following and filming them on their traumatic journey out of Gaza. So the next time you see one of Hamas's propaganda productions, remember, it's just that, propaganda.
Now, you may think, well, that's not true. Yeah, it is. The reason they're waving is because the only way they're going to get out of there is to read whatever they're told to read, wave like they're happy and they had a wonderful time being there, just to get out. That's really what this is. This is an example of where we are today in Israel with the Hamas coming from Gaza to get the prisoners back. This is going to get ugly at the end of the week because Trump just said they're all going to be released by Saturday night, whatever, or is going to be hell to pay. And I'm not sure he's going to back off. I don't think he will. They had an agreement, and Hamas decided to claim, oh no, Israel was unfair and they did some things that we don't like, so we're not going to release the hostages. Okay. And I would not be surprised if there are a bunch of special forces people ready to go. Someplace, somewhere. I don't know. Those are things that's way over all of our pay grades. But they're going to do something. They're going to make some difference. And that's just in Israel. So what's the big deal, right? Well, the answer to that is that there's more to this than just Israel and Hamas and Iran and the Houthis and all of those people. We don't know who came across the border here. We don't know who the bad people are and who the good people are. We don't know what their plans are. We don't know how many there are because they came across the border and we didn't even see them. We know they came across, we didn't have a discussion with them, and here they are. Now, I told you I've done some research. I've been trying to study this whole thing about citizenship because the birthright issue is a big issue. Because you can be a immigrant coming across the border pregnant, and as soon as you get across the border and you have the baby, U.S. citizen. Bada boom, bada bing. And the fact is that that is not what the purpose of the amendment that allowed people to get their citizenship back in the 1860s, 70s. That wasn't the purpose of it. Look at this. Immigration law attorney, birthright citizenship hinges on the definition of jurisdiction thereof. The Immigration Reform Law Institute argues that to be a United States citizen at birth under the 14th Amendment, which is the amendment that was done in the 1800s, of the United States Constitution, a person must be born in the United States to parents who were legally residing in the country at the time of birth. Legally residing. That's what they're saying. That's what the Constitution says. So if somebody comes across the border that's not legal and they have a baby, they're not legally residing. They may be residing in this country, but not legally. And that disqualifies that whole idea. So our legal argument is based on an 1898, I said 70s, 1898 Supreme Court case, United States versus Wong Kim Ark. The case centered around whether or not Wong Kim Ark, who was born in San Francisco, California, was a citizen. He was born to parents who were not from the United States and were not eligible for citizenship under the Chinese Exclusion Act of 1882. Now, you can look at anything and come up with reasons, ideas, and ways to push back. But the simple fact is that this is an issue that's going to have to be decided. And if you come across the border and here you are, and you've got a pregnant wife or a pregnant person with you, you wouldn't even know they're pregnant maybe, and they can't get citizenship if they were born to a person that wasn't legally a citizen. I don't know why this is so difficult, but that's where we are. That's where we are. So all of this has to do with so many things about security and the way things work. And my final story is something that you just wouldn't think about. And that is about how China is involved with toll booths. You go, what? So what? Well, watch this, and I think you'll find this interesting and frightening. Van Drew, which is a guy that was a Democrat that's become a Republican, he's in New Jersey. Watch his story.
A company that is responsible for the majority of Easy Pass in the United States of America was bought out by a company in Singapore. And Singapore, this company has major ties to the CCP, to Communist China. The people on the board have major ties to Communist China. There's a complete sharing of information. So now, basically, New Jersey had the ability to get out of a contract with them because their contract had expired. So they were going into a new contract. Instead of awarding it to an American company in the US, and there was a good one that bid, and actually bid lower, they awarded it to the Singapore company with ties to Communist China. There's a huge traffic corridor. So the New Jersey Turnpike, the Garden State Parkway, there's almost nobody in the country who's never traveled one of those roads. Military equipment goes through those roads. Millions upon millions of people do. Personal information, pictures, driver's licenses. AZ Pass has access to all that.
This is a real frightening thing because, you talk about, well, Elon Musk can look at the data. Well, guess what? This is just, here it is, big time right in front of your face. The Chinese now have license to be working the Easy Pass. You look at a lot of cars, there's the little Easy Pass transducer that sends the information to the toll booths when they go through, drive through, and they have all that information. They gave it to Singapore, which is working with China. What are we doing? I mean, where are the Democrats right now complaining about that? We're going to keep on that story. I want to know more about that, and I want to know what they're doing, if that's possible. Okay, I'll be back tomorrow, 1 o'clock Eastern time, because that's what I do. And I want you to be here. So if it's not 6 degrees outside where you are, go outside and enjoy the day. Work your day, get off work, have a good meal, spend time with your family, and have everything just awesome for you. And until then, carry on.
Thanks for your support. Join the Framers View Monday through Friday at 1 p.m. Eastern.